this is the Pale Morning Dun Soft Hackle. I can't remember exactly where I picked it up, but out of one of the magazines or online or something. Anyway, you guys know I like to do soft hackle a lot.
It's a pheasant tail.
It's very much like a pheasant tail, some very minor variations. 37.69 is the hook, so it's 2 extra heavy, 1 extra, standard length, 2 extra heavy. So it's not like a pheasant tail, which is a little longer shank, because this is meant to be swung and not drifted, dead drift. The other part that's really different on this is the tail. Let me kind of turn that, I don't know if you can see it best, there we go. Is that showing?
Yeah.
3 tails, so it's...
Fish don't have any money.
It's wood duck, three wood duck, I just laid down. 3 wood duck tails, and I'll show you how to split it. The big thing on this fly is really how to split the 3 tails. The next fly we're going to talk about how to do a hackle. When I tie the flies, I like to try to show a technique that you either know, forgot, or don't know. Because the rest of this fly is super simple. There's nothing to tie and what you need to do to tie this particular fly. So we're going to use the, like I said, 37.69. I'm going to use brown, or in this case, this is dark brown, but brown thread. A dark caramel would work. We're going to use pheasant tail for the body, and the brown section of the partridge for the hackle. Okay.
I might have a pen or a pencil.
So
I have it.
we're gonna
You got my pencil.
Left it on the ground.
Okay, you get it.
start our thread, and I start the thread where I intend to have the abdomen end and the thorax begin, which is about at the 3/5 segment.
I've got paper, yeah.
Okay, I bring my thread down only to the point at this point, because this is where I'm going to take my wood duck, 3 fibers. Okay, you're looking for it to be approximately the shank length, not much longer. Could be if you felt like it. Tie it on top, tie it down, it's a couple of turns, all the way to the barb. Then I take one underneath it, cock it up, separate the tail. Then I take the fiber closest to me and I pull it towards me. And I take half a turn to lock it on this side. Then this one on the other side, I pull it away. Come on, fingers. Continue my wrap. Up. Continue my wrap down, and I pull it down to the other side. Come on. Fingers are not working. Sometimes they work good for me, sometimes they don't. Come on. There it is.
Try not to cut the end off, because mine's not working too good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Run my thread up in a couple of spiral turns all the way back to the beginning to keep an even body. Rib is fine copper wire. This is an old lamp cord, and I've cut it into pieces about this long. Yes, sir.
I think
Yeah,
that
this one looks broken, but it's actually curled, George.
I think that fly's too small to put it between.
Well, you
Not
could.
on big flies.
You
but
could,
that's too
but
small.
I find that this separates it. Now, the fish don't care if it's separated, but as a tyer, I think you should try to tie flies that make you happy.
Right, yeah.
You know, and if you're happy separating them, great. If you don't want to separate them, great. Then put 4 or 5 or 2 or 8. I don't care. Fish don't count.
I know, I do
This
the
is-
same thing, like, I like, if the bug has 3.
And
it looks good to you.
I'm using a
And then you have
size.
confidence in it, and that's how you fish it.
I'm using a size 12 hook.
birds in there? Okay, I think I've got his book at home, I probably.
So I'm going to take some of the long fibers of the pheasant tail. What I like to do, because the tips are always very fragile, I always like to just nip off the very tips just to clean them. Tie it in right on top, right at the end of where my thorax or my abdomen is going to end. Run my thread back in the spiral, and spiral my thread back up. Okay?
Aren't you going to put the wire in first?
Got to put the wire in. Yeah, I should have put the wire in. Thank you very much. I
Then you
forgot
got
that.
coach.
That's right.
Yeah, wire on the bottom.
Lost a point there, Gene.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
matter where
have
you
a
put
pretty
the
heavy
wire.
body here before you get
Or a
done.
tenth of a point.
Yeah, okay.
3 more times it.
So now, what I like to do is I like to reverse wrap the wire so it does lock it down. And I found that it's easier to tie the wire down if I wrap the wire in the same direction as my thread. Therefore, I'm going to reverse wrap my pheasant tail. I personally find it easier. You can do it either way that you find the easiest. Okay, on top, 1, 2, 3. Clean off the waist, and then turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the fish don't count, so if you want to do 6 or 7. Now what I always take 3 turns in front. The reason for that is I hold my wire down and back, and then I wrap back over so that the wire underneath, this wire here, has been folded. So it goes wrapped around and is folded back underneath and tied down. And I helicopter off the wire. Come on. There we go. Okay. Next, peacock. You can use the eye, you can use whatever you want. You only need 3, maybe 4 fibers at the most. This is a 12. I'm going to use 3 only. You want a slight larger thorax than the body, but nothing huge. So I'm going to take and cut most of the tips off. Tie it in on top.
The eye first, huh?
And then you can either wrap it without a strength member, you can do a loop and wrap it, or you can simply take your peacock, and I like to stand the fibers up by stroking them backwards, and you can just wrap them around the thread for a strength member. Now, understand that the strength member I'm talking about is a strain release strength member so that the peacock doesn't break when I'm wrapping it. It doesn't mean it's stronger to the fish's tooth, because the peacock and the thread will break just as easily on a fish's tooth. You could have used wire in there if you wanted to use more weight. You could have used wire to wrap your peacock around. Okay, wrap your thorax up to the front. Tie it off. Okay.
What size is that?
This is a 12. At 12 would be about as big as I'd use, and the smallest I would go to, honestly, on this would be a 16. I wouldn't need to go to an 18. But you could if you'd like. I mean, the size isn't that important. The hackle is going to be the brown segment of a partridge skin, and this is either, is that clear? Am I getting it?
Yep.
It can either be the brown tipped ones like this, or you can get in here to the gray-brown mottled, whichever one you feel looks best on the fly. The sample I showed you, this one, that hackle is this brown mottled up here. It's this stuff. For this fly, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to use more of the speckled, the brown speckle, as opposed to the heavily brown. I don't think the fish care. You guys probably hear me say that a lot, that we spend more time and energy trying to decide what's right or wrong compared to what the fish care about. But as a tyer, I do like to have my flies look good in my eye. What you're looking for on your hackle, if you're going to actually wrap a soft tackle, is you're going to want to take and clean off the fluff, pull your bars down, you're looking for your hackle from the racus, the shaft, to the hackle points should barely reach the bend of the hook. So you can tell the bottom few of these are a little bit too long. So I'm going to strip some of those away. Okay, and this is what I'm going to use. You only need 1.5, 2 turns at the very most for a soft tackle fly. What I do is the way I prepare it is I separate the tip. A lot of folks are going to tie it in just here and then clip the tip later. I find that a lot more difficult. I like to clip the tip first and tie it in short.
And look at it,
Yeah.
fly tweezers, and they're $10, that thing holds so goddamn hard,
What,
tight.
is it for like a hackle plier?
Yeah, it's a hackle plier, but it's a completely
I
different
haven't seen
shape.
one yet that holds in it.
No, this thing,
This one-
you'll snap the stem before this thing
Every
goes.
time.
I have had, now what I'm looking for is 2 turns, and I want you to pay attention here. My first fiber breaks right here at the top, right? It's about, if you were looking at it, it would be about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So when I get back to 1 o'clock, that's 1 turn,
Right.
right? So 1 turn would be enough, but I actually like to have 1.5, so I'm gonna break it on the bottom at about 7 o'clock. Okay, then what I do, I also take 1 full turn of
It's just a naked
stem.
stem.
Just a naked stem, because when you're trying to tie it in, 1, 2, 3 only, when you're trying to tie in your hackle and you're not just tying it in on the stem, you're catching fibers.
Oh.
And now your fibers, so what I like to do is preen it back to where my hackle ends exactly where I intended it to end, then take 1 full turn of the bare stem and then tie it down.
Except that makes a bulk of your head,
Pardon?
makes a bulk of your head though.
Yeah.
Yes and no. You know, it depends. You know, if you're looking for as minuscule head as you can, yes, it will be. But as a proportionate fly, it doesn't make that big of a difference.
You just don't want the hackle laying tight to the body, the
No.
last one when you catch it with it.
Which is going to happen a lot. So, and then wrap your head to the size you'd like, large, small. With finish, cut your thread and the fly's done. It's the key to this fly. The thing I was trying to teach was the way you can do the tail. Now you can use that same thing with microfibbits. You can use it with coque de lion. You can use it with any material you're going to use, a la dry fly if you would, type in splitting 3 tails. There's about 5 different ways. Well, I only know 3, but I think somebody told me there's 5 different ways of splitting 3 tails, and I know of 3. One of them, that's the easiest one I know of, is you leave your thread hanging and then you make a loop out of your thread and you pull it up. You know, with the center fiber going through the center of the loop and the 2 getting pushed out when you pull it up, it sets. That's probably one of the simplest ways. The other one is to do a bunch of figure 8s around it, and that works like a charm, and then this. These are
That
the
gets
3
kind
I
of
know.
bulky though. When you do the figure.
Well, again, it depends upon what you're tying and the particular size. So here's the same flies. Now I've tied this with, I'll pass it around. This is the one I have device. This hackle is the brown segment of the partridge. This is teal, just in case you wanted to see what teal would look like. You can use teal, and then why not use teal? If you think teal looks good, I don't think the fish are going to care about it, but I think the teal has a different look to it. And then this is the same partridge like I've got on here. So here, pass that around. So the key is how to do the tail. The fly is, who said it? This is a pheasant tail. It was Mitch who said it was a pheasant tail.
The teal